Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Ceres podcast. Today, in episode 214, I'm joined by David Miller, Mark Petru, Kelly Barnes, and David Nicolau for our very much loved Pod Squad episodes. I am really starting to enjoy these. From my point of view, they take a lot of work because you got to get everyone together, everyone not so much thinking on the same page, because I don't want everybody thinking on the same page, but I want everyone to feel like they can sort of challenge each other, and I think we're really getting there now. These episodes are always packed with ideas, opinions, and a bit of good-natured debate. And judging by your messages, you really enjoy them as much as we do too. In this episode, we're talking about how Good Friday went for fish and chip shops across the country, plans and ideas for National Fish and Chip Day 2025, why staff training really matters, plus a look at potato quality, fish supply issues, and the effects of tariffs, quotas, and MSC certification. Before we get stuck in, a quick reminder that the best way to stay in the loop with all things Ceres, new podcast episodes, offers, competitions and updates is through our WhatsApp announcement group or our mailing list. No spam, no chatter, just useful updates, and you'll find the links in the episode show notes. Also, we can see that, two things. We can see that people are using the calculators online, and we're also getting a lot of great feedback. We have some plans for other ones to come, but at the moment, the most popular ones are the fish pricing calculators, the VAT calculators, and also the fish cake ones. They're really doing well at the minute. Thousands and thousands of uses over the last few months. So if you haven't checked them out yet, they're there waiting. They're really doing their job. With costs spiraling and going up and down all over the place at the moment, it's really worth jumping on and using those. Today's episode is sponsored by Ceres P1 Chip Preparation Formula. It's a must-have for any fish and chip shop out there. It helps reduce starch, keeps your chips fresher for a longer period, and it protects your oil, all whilst making your chips taste fantastic. Made in the UK with free next day delivery from www.ceres.shop. And one last update, we had a huge rush on our Ceres curry sauce, as you'll hear in this episode. We had to ration it for a bit. Things are nearly back to normal, but we're still shipping on a first come first serve basis. So if you definitely need it, get your order in, because we don't want to run out, because lots is going out next week. Right, let's get into today's episode of the Pod Squad. Happy end of the month, everybody. How is everyone?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, Kelly's chirpy. The men aren't.
I'm golden.
I'm champion.
What is with you lot?
I'm terrific.
Kelly, should we just boot everyone off and do this on our own?
I'm great. I'm going on holiday in 5 days.
I know nobody can tell, but David Nicolau has got this new camera, and he looks very sexy.
I don't think I would use that word.
Why don't you take a photograph now and then you can show everybody?
Show everybody. He should have had a shave. I would really, but yeah. How is everyone? Everyone okay?
Good.
Yeah, very good.
I think we've got some strong topics today. There's a lot of, I think it's quite good now. We're starting with Kelly. I was chatting to Kelly because Kelly did a podcast earlier today, and we had a very quick chat afterwards. And Kelly was telling me that she likes the idea that we're sort of doing these at the end of the month, and it's sort of good because we can look back on the month that we've just passed, and hopefully in the next few months we'll have some better things to talk about, as in more prosperous or things that are the tide maybe starting to turn. But one thing that I'd like to discuss straight off the top is, how was everybody's Good Friday? Did everyone have a good Friday? Does that make sense? We
had a very, very good Friday.
A very, very good Friday.
Yeah.
We were up on last year, only by a smidgen. couple of £100, but at least we were up, so that was good.
Fish sales were up, as in item sales were up, or just yeah. Okay,
across the board, yeah.
Mark,
Which is positive, really, because it's been very flat up to this point this year.
Okay.
I have to say, not a great week this week, but there you go. That's usually the case, isn't it?
Well, they're all fish and chipped out, aren't they? Really, yeah. It's just it seems to what you seem to get at one end, it seems to sort of fall away on the other, but it all seems to ramp out at the average out at the end. So
normally the Saturdays are a bit duff, aren't they? Ours was strong, so
ours was duff actually.
Yeah.
If
you don't know what that means, Mark, that's a Yorkshire word for no good.
Yeah,
shy.
Shy, yeah.
I'm just wondering of the etymology of up the duff then. Like,
No.
what? Because is that up to no good, or I'm gonna have to find
pregnant.
No, I know. I got that. Obviously, I knew that. I was just wondering how it was linked to the word duff. Like,
Don't know.
I don't know. I think we should move on.
I think someone needs to Google that rather quickly.
So I'll tell you. I'll tell you about our Good Friday. Essentially, it was interesting. So I'd say it was about a week before Good Friday. It was the Thursday, about 8 days before Good Friday. Just out the blue, out of nowhere, the order system was off the hook. It was a Thursday. It was about 1 o'clock. Turns out by the end of that day, we'd sold approximately 7 weeks of curry sauce in 4 hours, 5 hours. Not sure why. We don't know what the hell happened, but it went. And then all the orders afterwards are like, I need curry sauce, because that's just sod's law. Everyone's like, when you ain't got it or it goes out of stock, everybody wants it. So then we're running around trying to find loads of curry sauce. So what we've figured out is that we have lots of different types of customers. There's obviously a spectrum. But on one side, you've got people that like to think pretty early, get their orders in for something like Good Friday, a couple of weeks to a week before. And then you've got others that all try to order it on the Thursday before Good Friday, after 2 o'clock, wondering why their order hasn't got there on Friday when it's a bank holiday. And you're trying to explain to them, well, DPD and such don't deliver on Good Friday, so it'll probably end up coming on Saturday. And they're like, well, I need it for Good Friday. And I'm like, well, you should have probably ordered it before. So
your fault, though.
Oh, of course. Of course, I acknowledge that. And we are still actually out of curry sauce for about another 4 days. It's been horrendous. Like, honestly, I'm not even joking. I hate being out of stock, because if you're out of stock, you're upsetting people. I just don't like it. And but we have managed to ration the stock and drip feed it out to people. So we had a little bit of, we have like a buffer in place where you might sell 6 weeks of stock, but there's still a week's worth just in case. So the buffer or the alert kicks in slightly early. Not in this case though, because it was unprecedented. So yeah, it's just, I've been pretty stressed, and we've been moving into our new office, which has been ultra stressful. Yeah, so when you just have a couple of weeks where you think, I want to crawl under a rock, it's been a bit like that, to be honest.
Entire months and years like that.
But my terrible week last week was made much brighter because I drove to Chatteris on Saturday, and that is a special place. I don't know if you know it, but it is a special place, the potato eaters of the east of England. And I got to see Mark Petru to fix some of his technical issues. So I don't know if anybody heard his 2 episodes with Barry Dickman and Brent Watson, but there were some awful glitches where every time Mark spoke, it just kept cutting out, and very nearly, which was unfortunate. We nearly never did put out those podcasts, did we, Mark? We thought we just thought they sounded terrible, they couldn't be fixed, and then when I listened to them on a speaker, I thought, well, actually, they're a bit better, and you know what, the content's great, so let's put them out, so we did do that. But I did get to see Mark, which was pleasant. And
that was very nice. They were the stars of the show, not me. So anything I had to say didn't really matter anyway.
Yeah.
That's why we put them out.
But it was a highly technical issue, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah, it was. And we got to the bottom of it. and it's now resolved. I don't think we need to go any
I think we need a full explanation.
I think that's really
I'd
nice
like
of
to-
you to
I
sort
think-
of mention that. And
I think you need to know so we don't do it again in the future, perhaps.
No, it's
But
fine.
other
We
people might
were
be,
we were just about to order a new microphone, weren't we, Mark? And
we were, yeah.
we just reset it. It worked. You know what? It turns out, when you bring up Virgin Media, my Wi-Fi is not working, and they say, "Oh, have you tried switching it on and off?" I used to get really annoyed about that. I used to think, you know what, they're fobbing me off. It's like ringing up the NHS and saying, you know what, I'm about to have a cardiac arrest. And they're like, have you had paracetamol? 9 times out of 10, the paracetamol or switching off the computer or the router actually does work. So
just for the that's not medical advice, by the way.
no. Yes, if you're listening to this and you feel like
you're having a heart attack,
yeah,
paracetamol,
call 999.
yeah,
Actually,
no.
yeah. So,
Turn the internet off.
so
No, my computer hadn't been corrupted with anything vile or anything.
No,
like
I was
that.
going to
You'll-
make
You'll
that
be
joke.
pleased.
I
to
did
hear.
threaten him that I was going to make that joke, and I haven't. But people
I
get
am
they
shocked.
get the inference now. Yes.
I'm shocked that it's not chocker full.
No, there was nothing. No,
With Russian malware.
nothing at all on there. But we have.
What I will say is, though, I've seen Mark in person, and it's been probably a good couple of months. And I'm not saying it to fluff him up, but he genuinely, you can't tell here, but he looks brilliant. He's lost weight, and I thought
you looked great, Mark.
There you go, Mark. But I genuinely think he looks trimmer, he looks healthier, and I do think it's since the podcast. I think he's really started to put his health first. And he wants to carry on doing the podcast for longer. Nothing to do with his wife or his daughters. He just wants to carry on doing the podcast for longer.
That's exactly the reason why.
Mark, can you stand up so we can me and Debbie can have a little look?
No,
he's naked from the waist down.
I'm naked from the waist down. Dave.
Just the thought.
I knew that was coming.
So, on the flip side, Good Friday, our very own David Miller was on GB News. Does that make you a racist now, David? Because don't everyone always say on Twitter that GB News is like,
It's far right now.
Yeah, look at him. He's got
toxic masculine white supremacist.
No, not at all. I got a nice phone call off Anna. I said, do you mind if I come and see you on Good Friday? I said, yeah, no problem. And sure enough, she turned up and we had a nice little interview and it was good. And then surprised, she said, do you mind if we stick about and do another interview sort of at the end of lunchtime? I said, yeah.
I thought your young fish fries were great as well. Abby was great. Scott was great. It's brilliant. And
it made me laugh actually because she said, they've got a brief of what they wanted to say and she asked me a few things. And I said, the Bering Sea, and she took it ages she kept saying Bering Sea, and she kept practicing it all the time. And one of the guys wrote it out on a big sheet of paper and held it up.
She kept saying Bering.
She nailed it. I thought I was ever so proud of both of them. They absolutely nailed it. And I think the theme for me was to keep it as upbeat as possible.
Well,
and just say to people, if you're thinking about fish and chips, this is a day to come and support your local fish and chip shop.
Yeah, I thought it was a great message, positive.
Thank you. It's good. It's good to be still classed as a bit current, even though I'm very old, so it's good.
I like current.
It was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that Mr. Cook didn't get on, did he?
We were trying to find that, weren't we?
Yeah, there was a technical problem. They couldn't get a connection to him. So you were carrying the
industry that day.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you had a weight on your shoulders, David?
No, I quite enjoy it now. I enjoy it.
You are like, I'm just saying, because you were on GB News, you are like the Andrew Tate of the industry now. You know that. I can see it now.
I don't think so, Stell. People that know me would never, ever compare me.
I know, as if you just compared. That's like,
just messing about, Kelly. Stop it. Right, who invited Kelly on?
Kelly.
Come on.
That's very nice of you, Kelly, to stick.
No, joking aside, though, like one thing I do like about GB News, is that they do really push fish and chips. Like they really, I guess it's pro-British. There's nothing more British than fish and chips, is there? So they do really push it. So, but well done, genuinely well done. It's good to hear that positive outlook on a day like that. And you know what? If it put fish and chips in 10 people's mind, then
Job done.
job done, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Job
And
done.
yeah, so yeah, that's what I think. And well done, mate. Well done to everybody.
We had a really shocking. We had the worst Good Friday in history.
Really? What'd you put that down to? Weather dependent, or
Did you take the day off?
Yes.
maybe
Really
that's why?
annoyingly.
There you go.
It absolutely pissed it down like torrential rain all day.
Oh wow!
All day, and it was honestly, it was absolutely shocking. It was so bad, and we just, we were busier on Mother's Day than we were on Good Friday.
Wow.
Yeah, like honestly, Mark, I couldn't believe it. And the bank holiday Monday was busier than the Good Friday. It was so my manager had like 13 staff, and I think she finished the night on 7. Which is a normal busy Friday. But what we did do is we took advantage of that, and we've got loads of, obviously we've got the cars and we've got drivers with business insurance and things. And yeah, we bumped the deliveries up, and so the other shop, which is normally quieter, ended up being busier through deliveries. So just utilised what we got, really.
Yeah. There's always next year, Kelly, isn't there?
Yeah. Absolutely. They still phoned me to double check I was happy. I was like, just do what's needed and crack on. And they did. Yeah, it was really nice to have in all honesty, it was nice to have the weekend off. It was just, very different.
Good for you.
You say I'm looking well. Don't you think Kelly looks well?
Yeah, great.
You look terrific. Really, really.
To be fair, I think all of yous look great. I just like joking aside. Like I think
He wants a compliment back, guys.
No,
you look
no,
amazing, Stel.
You look like you've been under a stone for 2 weeks.
Mate, you look like.
I just wanted to say something nice about Mark because I think he's been doing really well. And then you now said it about Kelly, which now everyone's like, oh yeah, he wants a compliment.
No, you look like shit.
It's Myriad on the line. Yeah, like, it sounds very familiar. This. So what do you do? Like, Good Friday. Like, I know talking to a lot of inland shops. When I say inland, I mean more residential. Like they were dead. Like people in Leicester, people in Coventry, and I think that's because people in like those sort of areas. And I don't know, Mark, you've not mentioned how your Good Friday was. I don't think, but
we had a stonking
you had a
Good
good one.
Friday.
Okay.
The day after, the Saturday was pedestrian. It was quiet, but we are affected by the coastal shops. When the coastal shops get busy,
everyone goes that way.
Our Saturdays take a dive. No, our Friday was golden.
Well, where we are in the Midlands, let's say, like in Atherstone, which is Tamworth, and Nuneaton, like most people either going Skegness or Western Supermare. So like that's the nearest ones really. So one being north and one being south. So yeah, I think a lot of people migrate. My brother was saying he was pretty much dead on Friday, but really busy Thursday. So very busy Thursday, very busy Wednesday. So I wonder if again people are now thinking, tells you a lot about the appetite of people if they're eating fish and chips or something from a fish and chip shop on Wednesday, Thursday, and then travelling to somewhere else, let's say Exmouth, wherever, or York, and then having it on Friday as well. Like, yeah.
Do you think it's because, it's Good Friday, we know we've got our fish and chips, and we think we'll go Wednesday or Thursday to beat the queue?
Yeah.
Or do they just have it twice? I'd like to hope they have it twice. I'd like to. But yeah, it could
We've
be.
had a brilliant week this week, and last week, I know it's not Monday today. Last week was a big cash week for us as well. Lots of, we took a lot of cash last week, which we don't.
Cash was up, which is we were way up on
So
cash.
when you say cash, though, is this the stuff that disappears or the real stuff that goes to the bank?
There's none of that these days, mate. there just isn't enough cash.
We could all sit and wax lyrical and reminisce about the 80s, can't we?
About the good old days.
About 2022. Yes. I love how you added lots of buffer there, David Nicolau. 80. Lots of buffer there.
It's really odd though, because like we're
7-year limit on investigation.
I can stay well in the 70s.
So no, it's Well, I hope everybody has had a really busy one, and why not? That's what we're here for, and that obviously starts making us think about what's next on the the national calendar, which is Fish and Chip Day. That's on the 6th of June, 2025. What's everyone's thoughts? Has anyone got any big plans for anything, or are you just going to sort of go with the flow? Or one thing I've been trying to pitch to you all is doing something like that we could do together as a collective for the local community, whether it's, an old people's home or, but Mark, what are you thinking, mate?
Well, I listened to the podcast with Linda and Josie. Was it Josie?
Josie, yeah.
Joe,
Yeah.
Joe. And I actually listened to it twice because I wanted to remind myself of it before I came.
Those were the two listeners.
And it's inspired me because I hadn't really planned on doing anything for National Fish and Chip Day. I was being a bit of a wet Nelly about it.
That didn't come from me.
But I've decided now I'm going to reach out to a local care home and do something, do a giveaway, and try and generate some goodwill, some PR from it, and just use it as an opportunity to just put fish and chips back on the radar in my own community, just with my social media audience and with the local newspaper. It might cost me half a slab of fish and a couple of sacks of spuds, but it's not a cost; it's an investment. If I can, it's like dropping a stone in a pond, isn't it? The ripples of doing something like that, they reach further than you actually realise. So
it's like throwing a sausage down an alleyway, isn't it?
Now then, I prefer my analogy of the stone in the pond, but we can go with that if you like. I think it'll do well for me, and I encourage the listener of this to do something similar. It's good. Sometimes it's nice to put something back. This is a really good thing to get behind. And
I think for me, like one of the things that struck me when I was chatting to Joe and the name's just left me.
Linda.
What happened? So I was laughing about my crap joke a second ago.
It was crap.
Still in the alleyway, aren't you?
Yeah, and I am still at the alleyway stage. And then I was thinking about the next crude one, so that my brain already checked out. But no, I think for me, it was like, I know there's always going to be a bit of resistance. Oh, why should I give fish away? It's, fish is expensive at the minute. And anybody listening to this knows that, so... But for me, it was, what if there's something the industry can do as a collective? If everybody rang their local care home, like if we've got 100, 200, 300 people listening to this and they say, you know what, local care home, we want to do you all a light bite, mini fish and chips, 3 ounce and a cone of chips or something. Imagine the goodwill that could actually do for, and also it brings, they're going to talk to other people and hopefully it has a nice roll on effect. So, yeah.
And would you do that on the day or would you do that the day before? Because, Friday, trying to get that out, we don't do deliveries and trying to get that out on a Friday is
completely up to you, I guess. Like,
I guess it's like, like I was listening to the podcast and they were saying that all the D-Day stuff was done a few days before and photographed and released on D-Day. So you just have to box a bit clever. But it is a bit of a big ask to do something sort of major on a Friday, but on the few days before you could do it.
Yeah. Again, it's whatever suits.
Practically.
Yeah, and one other thing I would do, like this is what I would do. It's just an idea. Is if you didn't want to do an offer on the day, but you wanted to capitalise down the line, you could, whoever came in for fish and chips that day, give them a voucher to use within the month. I like
that idea. It's a good idea.
And they can use it off peak. You could say it's off peak, so it's got to be Monday to Wednesday or something like that. Or again, utilise Mark's idea of the dice and say whoever does a dice on the day, whoever gets the number that they're meant to get gets a voucher that day for another purchase down the line. So I think there's ways we can box clever here and really.
Yeah, the spinning wheel app was a cracking idea. Yeah,
yeah. I think there's so many ideas. We shouldn't just box the industry in and say, "Well, fish is expensive. I'm doing nothing."
The thing that I didn't realise was that National Fish and Chip Day was not aimed just at fish and chip shops, but
it's
everywhere that fish and chips is eaten. So pubs, restaurants, schools. Yeah, I didn't realise that.
Yeah,
I just thought it was something that was sort of geared towards the industry.
I think that helps me understand their motivations more so, that they're trying to promote fish and chips as a cuisine everywhere, as opposed to fish and chips in fish and chip shops. Yeah. What do you think, David Miller?
I think they do a great job, and I think people should get right behind them. I mean, they helped me so much last year. We did a D-Day thing with our local church and Memorial Hall, and brought loads of people together and did all the music. And we were doing sort of fish and chips at the price it was back in the 40s, and just a bit of fun. All got dressed up, and it was really good. But this year, I'm always banging on about young people. So this year, we've got a ceramic maker. She does lots of stuff in ceramic. So she's making us little blue fish with our logo on. And she's making 20 of those. And then we've got one golden little fish with our logo on. And they're going to be spread all over the village. She's going to do it, not us. She's going to hide them. And then at 4 o'clock, to bring the kids in, we're going to have it open from 4 till 7. They've got to hunt for these little fish all over the place. And the one that finds the golden one, their family gets a free meal.
Oh, nice.
That's cute.
A bit like orienteering or like an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, but what it is, it's bringing the young people in to get involved with National Fish and Chip Day.
Yeah. It's very geocaching, isn't it? That sort of thing. Yeah. You heard of that stuff?
Yeah. And they're all
That's a clever idea.
I'm going to have one in my pocket, so probably a golden one.
It's a golden one, yeah.
And I go for a bike ride that day. So anyway,
nobody won. Yeah,
and I still think we could, as well as that, you could still do the care home.
I'm going to put money on this right now. Mark my words. That was your article. That's what your article was called, actually, Mark. But
was it?
Yeah. Nana Miller is going to win that golden fish. I'm telling you, I can see it right now. I can see it. Kelly, what do you think to what we're saying, my darling?
To be honest, if I'm really honest, the last she's like, oh God, she's going to throw it. I don't know. I think National Fish and Chip Day is a great idea. For us, Fridays, I don't know. I've never got we've never got anything out of it. It's never ever been, all the times that we've done it, it's not, nobody knows. And I know it's about promoting brand fish and chips, and I completely appreciate that. I think what Dave is doing is fantastic. I think that's such a great idea. And it's kind of like, okay, I quite like. I'm obviously not going to copy that idea. Don't panic. But I just think, maybe looking at it from a different perspective, maybe this year. But we haven't, probably the last, I would say since COVID, haven't done anything like that. But it's our 25th year this year, so for me, it's kind of quite important to be promoting fish and chips. I think, not to take it down a really dark, horrible path, but I think, in all honesty, this is probably the first year where I felt comfortable doing things again outside of the box of looking after yourself, I suppose. That's, if we can kind of talk about that, I think that's really, for me, where I'm been like, actually, do you know what? I want to get back involved in doing things like that, because actually we kind of closed ranks and just shut ourselves off to everything and everyone. And we just concentrated on what we were doing. Whereas actually we're probably in a position to go, do you know what? Actually, we need to start getting back into the community and involved in the community again, which is why we're doing more charity work again this year. So yeah, I think we will definitely be doing something for National Fish and Chip Day this year. And it's 10 years, like you said. So yeah, I think it is very important to get involved and start promoting it again.
I think I wanted to delve in without being negative, obviously, because it's hard to press and be positive, but I did want to delve into some of those, the counter arguments to people that maybe don't get involved, or that would say, I wish it was over 5 days, I wish it was over 3 days, I wish it was over a week, I wish it was on a different day, I wish it was in October, because obviously we hear these counter narratives, and I think they answered it as well as they could, and I think some people still weren't satisfied with those answers, which that's everyone's prerogative. Everyone can, everyone's got to draw what they like from every podcast, and but I do think I get their point. Like, the budget isn't there to do it over a week, because you can imagine for a day they've got really limited funding as it is. So yeah, for a week it really stretched them. But like they said, they're not stopping anybody from doing celebrations for a week either. So if an individual shop wanted to do celebrations for a week, I guess they could. But like David Nicolau said earlier, if he's busy on a Friday, he'll move it to a Thursday, and we'll
just release
the information on the Friday.
Yeah.
Do
Joe and Linda as well are really good at, if you're doing something and you want us to promote
get behind
it as well, they'll get behind it. And I think this year we've actually thought about it. And instead of like, it's fish and chip day and put the stuff on 8 o'clock on Friday morning, I've actually thought about let's have it a good go with it being 10 years and start promoting it now.
Yeah.
In a way. And get it out there. And, we're going to get in touch with the schools and get people more involved, and might even get the press down and say, this is what we're doing for National Fish and Chip Day. That's all you can do, isn't it? But you can't just do it on the day. You can't just put the banners up on the day and expect.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, or even the night before, put on social media.
You've got to put a bit of work into it. If you want it to be successful, you've got to put a bit of work into it.
Yeah,
I'm going to make a confession now.
Yeah.
I think it was either during COVID or the year after COVID, we obviously made the decision that we weren't going to do anything because we weren't in a position to do anything, and we got a call from the local news. So ITV News phoned at 11 o'clock and said, "Can we be with you for lunchtime?" And I was like, "What?" So we did decorate the shop, and I got T-shirts, and we carried on, and we promoted it, and we carried on. And that was when we sort of said that, we sort of discussed about the fact that maybe we should be doing it because it is clearly out there in the news. And obviously the guys at Neoda and obviously had worked hard, and Josie and Linda had obviously worked hard to get it out into the press and into the media. So yeah, I think it is worth supporting. Definitely.
One thing we've always done for the last probably, I think it was the year before COVID, we've always put like lots of content out about how shops can do different things if they want to take part. So this year we probably started a little bit earlier, which I think is better for that. But one of the common things that I always come up against when trying to promote National Fish and Chip Day, and I think Linda does as well, and I think Joe does, and this is why they sort of try to reassure people, and this is where I disagree with them slightly, but they try to reassure people and say, you don't have to do offers, or something. Whereas I'm like, no, use that food that you've got as a marketing cost because it's the cheapest marketing cost you've got. Food doesn't cost you guys what you sell it for. Yeah. So it's food cost. So if you can get more people through the door at food cost, not cost of sales, then utilize whatever you've got at your fingertips. And but I would do either of those things we've suggested on our articles, and I think there's some strong ideas there. Yeah.
If you don't tell, you don't sell.
Exactly.
Awareness is key.
Exactly.
It's a good opportunity for us to shout brand fish and chips. So
it's just another excuse. And I think one key thing as well is like I've seen it where before we finish this one, I've seen it where it's National Donut Day and people will post and say, "Oh, don't eat donuts, it's eat fish and chips today," or it'll be like National Burger Day, or come and have a burger at my place, or if they don't do burgers, it's eat fish and chips today. And yet, and Joe and Linda were saying to me, so many people won't even post on Fish and Chip Day about fish and chips, but they'll post about Chicken Day or whatever day. And so I think, that makes sense to me. But
why?
Well, because that's what people are like. People do stuff like that. I don't know why exactly, but people do. Like they'll try say, don't eat a donut today, eat fish and chips. And, whereas what she's saying is if everybody posted on social media that day about fish and chips, it would be good. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Get involved. Everyone get involved. Let us know what you choose to do because we'd love to know. And, we're going to be at Chelsea Pensioners again, I think. I think that's been confirmed. So we'll be there doing fish and chips for those guys and girls. And they're great. They're a great bunch, to be fair. Like you walk in and they're all just like, they remember you from last year. So they want to ask you so many questions. And I always get the whole, I was stationed in Cyprus. And great. Yeah. You're the enemy. Oh, great. No, but they're not that bad. They're really good. They're really good. But last year when we were there was a second year last year. And there was one guy that wasn't there. Roy wasn't there. So I was like looking around thinking, do I say, where's Roy? Do I say and then I said to the head of hospitality afterwards, I was like, I didn't want to say anything, but where's Roy? And he goes, he took the day off to be with his girlfriend. I was like, that's all right then. That's all right. Roy's not dead. Roy's not dead. But you're going to, it is an old people's home. And when we were walking around the show, they've got a cinema room. It's ace. They've got a cinema room. Yeah. And they all sit down and watch different films. And I said what's a personal favourite? No word of a lie. Saving Private Ryan.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Oh, it's a great film for a start, but like you can see why though. Like it's awesome, isn't it? Like
PTSD going on, perhaps.
possibly a bit of PTSD.
Therapy.
But yeah, these
Roy-
guys, and here's the other crazy thing. So when we were preparing the first year, we were like, oh, we'll bring some of our gluten-free batter because there'll be some allergens. Or like, we don't cater for any allergens. I was like, really? No. Not that we don't cater for them. We ask and we do risk assessment, but there is none. Like nobody has them. Like, you know,
Hard as nails.
Yeah, exactly. Hard as nails. Like there's no, you know, like they just, you know, and actually on the day, their biggest complaint is we wanted a bigger piece of fish because they feel like their management are a bit tight. Which is funny. It just makes you laugh. Like, but like they're just solid people, just really solid. Like, yeah. So, and that's why I think the idea of serving elderly in homes really appeals to me because that's the generation that loves fish and chips. And if they then tell their friends and nieces and nephews and grandkids, oh, I had fish and chips today, that spikes some conversation. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've been catering for this care home for the last 7 years. Like just every Friday, last Friday of every month, they always phone up and place an order. And one of the gents died last week, and I went to his funeral because I've been dealing with him. And you just like that, you get to know them. Tell you they look. I actually quite enjoy a conversation on a Wednesday afternoon when he places his order to see what him and his wife have been up to. So yeah, I think you're right. That's quite a nice idea, isn't it?
Yeah. Moving on, Kelly Barnes, your topic of staff training. Tell us.
Yeah. So I've had quite an interesting week. Had to do a disciplinary, and basically that disciplinary was kind of brought around the fact that is a manager of a slightly older generation. And I think we've sort of discussed privately about him before on our chat. But it kind of made me aware of courses that are available, even sort of one-day courses that are available really for him. And one of them was social media awareness. So it's kind of making him aware of, you know, social media accounts that people have, TikTok, Instagram and things like that. And not only how to use it within your business, but how it can affect younger people within the business and things like that, and potentially groups that get set up. So it was sort of training around that. So I just wanted to know, how much do you invest in staff training? I don't mean money wise. I mean like courses, time, meetings. Because I think it's something that people don't do in our industry a lot. I think there are a lot of shops out there that don't invest the time that's needed for staff training. So I was just wondering what you guys did.
David Miller?
Yeah. So anybody that comes in, whatever age, they can do like Abby's just done, COSH, fire, level 2, allergy, level 2, level 3, HACCP, food hygiene, manual handling, mental health, whatever they want, they can take a pick, they can do all, it's up to them. Any of the supervisors, they will do level 3 supervisors, hospitality team, level 2, back of house, senior chef production, level 3, hospitality manager, level 4. It's quite a lot there, but it takes a lot of time. So I think what you've got to do is it's basically they can do some of it in our time and we pay, but then there's a certain amount that they would have to do if they really want it. I think one thing we also say, if they leave before they finish it, then we get the feedback, which I think is fair enough. Yeah. But the way I sell it, especially these lifetime courses, that if they do leave, they can take it with them and they can use it somewhere. But all this can only make your business better.
Yeah.
And that is the key to me. Plus, they feel that we care about them. And I think, to me, you know, I'm a great advocate of it, you know, and I think it's just great. And the sense of achievement when they do it is brilliant, you know.
It is, isn't it?
Opinion. That's my opinion, you know. And yes, it costs a bit of money, but it doesn't really for what you get back.
Yeah.
It doesn't really for what you get back, you know.
So, it's probably one of those things that costs you less in the long run, because if staff are well trained and motivated, and they're less likely to leave, hopefully, unless you overtrain them and now they're suitable to go elsewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, but
I mean, I guess that's a risk in every life. So
you'd have got the best out of them, won't you?
Yeah.
They're not prisoners. They're not prisoners just because they've done a course and the work at Miller's. They're not a prisoner. They can go wherever they like. If you make it like that, then it's not as tempting them for the leave. Obviously, you've got to back it up with looking after them as well in your salary or whatever. But if you can give them a really good progression, which I think training is, it does that progression line, because at the end of the day, in fish and chips, we haven't got loads of levels that we can climb up to, but at least we can give them some form of training. And as I say, a lifetime one, they can take it with them.
And it's better than, I just work in a chippy. Right? Yeah. You get rid of that attitude, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What are you laughing at, Mark? Was it a good? Did I sound like Kevin Perry?
I'll be honest, I haven't done any of them, but there you go.
That's one of my tests. That is an interview. Can they go through a whole interview without dribbling? What do they sound like when they talk? Stick their arm out straight and try and bring their index finger to the end of their nose. They're all the basic tests.
Where do you live again?
Chatteris. Do they walk on their back legs?
I saw this interesting thing the other day, and it was when this, I can't remember what sort of company it was, but when this chap does hiring, he, in front of the people that are there to do an interview, he leaves a wire and a plug. And while they're chatting, he'll say to them, "Oh, can you wire that plug for me?" And he just wants to see, like, what's the dexterity like? Do they know how to do it? Do they know how to do it for a start? I guess it must have something to do with technology or electrics. I hope so, because imagine an electrician that can't wire a plug. But I just thought, that's a smart way of just sort of like seeing how capable people are. How do they deal under pressure? But yeah, I wired a plug this morning in the dark, so I am a legend. So yeah. But
I mean, I don't know what you think, Kelly, but I think the other ones that are like easy to do, like the level 2s and that, they don't cost a lot of money, and I think that's good. But what I do say is I never say you've got to do them. It's got to be voluntary. But the bigger ones, like the lifetime, that is a lot of work. It's 18 months, and I think you've got to give them some time in your shop and pay them to do that. And some of their work is out in the.
Do you have it in the contract that, I know it's not an Arctic license. It's not, But do you have it in a contract that if they do a certain amount of training, they have to stay with you for so long or anything like that? Or to pay it off if they leave? I know it's not a £3,000 course, but...
we do the paying thing. So if they leave within 9 months of finishing the course, then yes, because obviously you have to pay them to study with apprenticeships. You've got to pay them to study. So... you've got to make time in your schedule to be able to do, they call it off the job. They have to do 20% off the job training, and that's being sat in an office, but paying for it. So we always make sure, and obviously I'm there to support them if they need anything. But what I found, we use a HR department and HR stuff. And what I found is that they do a lot of 1-day courses, that a lot of Zoom, and that's not necessarily training in the sort of, generic sense of doing a level 2 apprenticeship that takes that 18 months. It can just be little skills to help their skill set, communication, teamwork, and little things like that. If you find that it's not always when people are struggling, it can just be sometimes people come in and they haven't been in a working environment, even 19, 20-year-olds, some of them go straight to uni and they've not, they might have done a bit of work, part-time job or something, but sometimes they come to you looking for a full-time job, but they haven't got the skill set that you need, and you can kind of teach them the fish and chip side of stuff. But sometimes people just need help as well. I think there's a lot of people out there, I'm not bringing the goddamn word up again, but COVID had a massive impact on a lot of younger generations. And I noticed that in my workplace, they struggle to communicate. Some of them, you ask them to pick up a phone and they look at you like, what? So for the sake of what cost me, 45 quid, they can do a sit-down Zoom course for 45 minutes. It just kind of helps them ease them into those different skills that they may not have had.
And do you identify that, Kelly, now? Do you think, right, that course could really help that person?
Yeah, and we make them available as well. So we've got a work chat, and if I find 5 or 6 courses, I will approach them and say, look, we really like you to be able to, we feel that you're sort of lacking in this slightly. How would you feel about doing a course? And we'll pay for it and we'll support you through it. And we can sit down and discuss what you got out of that course after. Because there's no point, giving them a course and then just being like, okay, well, you've done it, thumbs up.
Yeah.
You kind of want to know what they got from it, because sometimes they might not be worth the money. And unless you're sitting every one yourself. But yeah.
Good.
David, Mark, what do you guys think?
Well, I'll go. Yeah, we've not spent a huge amount of time and energy on it. We get everybody's got to have the level 2 food hygiene to work here. We closely monitor them before we let them loose, before they get that. But we have done sort of level 3 with the managers, food hygiene. We've done more training. But we've got a very stable set of staff at the moment, so everyone's kind of where they need to be. Some of them are leaving for university this year. So it's very difficult getting them to progress because they're going on to different careers. So, it's just it's a difficult one. But we've never really sort of pushed the staff into it. It's always been they've seemed to have come to me and said, "Can I do this?" And yeah, we'll pay for it. That's not a problem. So it's not something I've ever spent a huge amount of time and effort on. Obviously, other than the stuff that we need to make the business tick. Go for it, Mark.
We have a stable set of staff, but mine were either born in a stable or live in a stable. There's something wrong with me today. I'm finding everything funny. So we train in-house. We don't really do formal qualifications. When I had 6 shops, I got the D32 MVQ assessor's qualification myself. Went deep into it. Offered formal qualifications for staff. Everybody had I had a file on every member of staff. We identified skill gaps. We offered training. Now I've got one shop. I've got staff that have been there, longer than the tiles have been on the walls, and we don't have a turnover. The turnover of staff we have are the ones that are really the lowest skilled anyway, and we buddy people up, and we bring people on, just like most independent chippies do, I think you guys, all 3 of you, have probably got bigger operations now than me, and probably need to look at it more formally than I do. So I have to bow to you on this. I used to do all of that. I don't do it so much, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. I've got a close knit team that I can depend on, I can rely on, and I don't get a lot of grief. A couple of my staff, I bought cars for them because they've been with me so long. It's cheaper than pay rise. Buy them a car every now and again. They're happy. I'm running now a small family chippy. I'm not trying to get people up to they're at a level that I'm very happy with. So it's an easier thing for me. If a new member of staff comes in, that I normally say, "Are you here for the calendar audition?" That normally scares a few people off. Give people a test. Tell them they've got a burger to assemble. The bun takes 2 minutes. The burger takes 3. How long is it going to take you to do the whole thing? If they come up with 5, they haven't got a job, because you toast the bun while the burger's cooking. Simple things. You get a good idea of who you're taking on before you take them on, and then I put them on a trial for a couple of weeks, because at the end of the 2 weeks you can say to them, this isn't the job for you, or this, we're really happy with you, and you've got an option to sort of bin somebody off that impressed you at the interview but couldn't cut it in the real world. That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
No. I think for me,
no, but it's interesting. Sorry, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that either are coming into the industry or have been in the industry for a while, and it's hard at the moment, isn't it? It's hard to get customers through the door with everything that's going on in the world. So yeah, it's just interesting to see what everyone's doing.
One of the things I'd add, just from my point, is that I think one of the most valuable assets I have to train my team is time and patience. Because I like to think I'm the busiest person in the world, and maybe I do have a lot to do, but it's also my job to make sure that I carve out enough time and patience to train somebody, even if it's basic, because, it might be, we had a new chap with us last week. I know how to do the system. I know how to pack boxes in a certain way. Matty knows, but this person doesn't. So you can be flippant and think, oh, well, it's only this. And I think it's those things. You've just really got to carve out enough time and patience. And, and this goes back to like the likes of McDonald's, who would spend something like 12 individual hours, so 12 hours in total, repetitively showing a young person how to do a single task. Is that mopping? Is that wiping down the counter? Is that then, putting the yellow cone there afterwards? And it might sound trivial and pathetic, but actually it's those things that really help people. Even we've got a rule. Me and Matty always have a Tuesday meeting, like every Tuesday. Funny that. And even when I was in Cyprus, I would check in for that meeting because he set aside the time. I like to think that if my staff member is making the time for something, I need to. I can't just say, well, I'm now doing something. I'm a stakeholder in that meeting. I need to be involved. So I do think that for me, it's just not trivializing the training program. And if someone does need support, do that, and don't mock it. Don't be like, oh, what a thicko. And I get what Mark's saying as well, because sometimes you do get to that point, like when you think, but maybe that person needs to leave before you start mocking them. Because do you know what I mean, Mark? Because they've got to go. And otherwise you can get into a trap where you keep people on and they're no good. But sometimes we all keep somebody on, and over the course of time, do actually get better. It's weird, isn't it, how people's confidence builds up over time. So
I think we basically it was like little things. Like I said, Tim and I hadn't worked in the shop for a while. Obviously we're office based, speak to my managers every day and all of that. And I'd know it was like little things. Like I was doing the invoicing for Tea Quality, and I'm like, why are we using 36 bottles of 5 litre flash in a month? What is going on that we need that much? Like little things that should be so simple. And I created a skills gap questionnaire. We're just finishing off getting the rest of them in, so that everyone was just asked really basic questions, things they should know the answers to when they're in training. And then I'm just going to evaluate all of their answers to see, are we training in the right way? Are we doing all the things that we should be doing? Because actually, that's down to me, which is down to my managers, and then it filters, it kind of comes back up the chain, if you like.
There's a lot of talk about, I'm sure David Nicolau will understand this, there's a lot of talk about machines taking over and AI, but even those things need recalibration. So do staff. Staff need recalibration.
Absolutely.
And so for me, it's like, I agree with the whole topic, whether it's formal training or informal training. I think that it all matters. So, nice one, Kelly.
I think you will have to put your hand up, and those operators need recalibrating sometimes.
Yeah.
My dad used to recalibrate me at least once a week. Yeah. Yeah, it was like resetting the Wi-Fi. Bosh. Yeah. But David Miller, you have got an update.
A bit of news. So this might help David Nicolau as well, because David Nicolau is on Calendar News tomorrow talking about fish.
Lovely.
And going on. So I've just got a little bit of news. I've been speaking to my mates in the wholesale business. So should I start with chips first or potatoes? Those that went to Isle of Ely last year, which I urge people to go to because it gives you a really good insight of what's going to go on through the year. They did say that dry matter was going to be high, and it is the highest they've seen it. So that I'm finding resulting in a powdery chip, bit of bruising with black spots. I don't know if you're finding that, David Nicolau, are you?
Yeah, from time to time.
Not ideal, unfortunately, but it's all we've got at the moment where we are. It is coming to the end. Wholesale prices are dropping weekly, so let's see if that filters back to us. Growers are continuing to clear the stores to avoid ongoing costs, so they will be getting the stuff out to clear it, ready for the new crop in. News on the new crop. Good news, planting's gone really well. As we know, last year it didn't because it was too wet. So we're on track for the early crop to be coming on time. It is dry, but not critical yet. So you've had good dumps of rain in the southwest, southeast. northwest as well, but the northeast, which is where me and David are, it's missed us a little bit and gone out to sea.
And I walked the dog this morning, and the farmers are out in the fields irrigating. They're getting all the pumps set up.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I think on the whole, it's looking promising this year for the early crop, so that's good news.
Just before you... Sorry, one second.
Go on.
You mentioned that your potatoes have been a bit dry, and you specifically mentioned David. Is that a pre-prack issue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just what we're using. I mean, from the Isle of Ely, so
yeah, but you're not that they're bad. Like, but if they've got high dry matter, they're more prone to bruising. Kelly and Mark, you guys seeing anything there?
I'll go first. My spud's been golden. They're terrific. At the moment, I'm on Babylon. I've not been on Babylon all the time. I was on one. I want to say Lady Lucy. I don't know if that's a variety. It's something like that. Very nice. A little bit like Marquee, but not as dry. In that it's a really good looking chip. And then I had some Agria, but they were shocking. There was a lot of work on those, and I rejected them. So normally I stay on the same spud for as long as I can. I like continuity. I like to give my customers the same chip. But the Babylon I'm on now, great sample, very little work, no bruising, yellow. They're quite waxy actually. They're not dry at all. So I think. There's lots of different ones out there. I think David's on the money. That there's the dry matter is high. That's what they're saying. That's what it is. But my farmer hedged it. He planted 4 or 5 different varieties, and the Babylon that he's put me on now will see me through. And he's planted earlies for the first time. He doesn't normally grow earlies, but he's growing some this year, which makes it good for me. So
the Babylon, there's very little. There's not enough about though, is it? They're pushing it as much as they can. There's not many growers growing the Babylon.
Yeah, well, I'm paying top money. I'm paying £10 a bag.
Yeah.
Which I don't normally do. I like to go cheap. Because there are no transport costs.
Many
and
would
I go
be
straight
paid
to the
more,
farm.
but you're quite lucky that you're very close. You could fall over into a potato field.
He's taking that himself.
Yeah, I can hear them growing in the field. They're that there. But you know what I've paid in years gone by. So for me to actually go up to £10 a bag, but they're worth it.
Kelly, what are your taters like?
They're beautiful. No problems. We're on Agria. We've been on Agria for quite a while now, to be honest. They are a little bit. They are a little bit. What's the word I'm looking for? A little bit bruised. Sorry, a little bit of bruising, but nothing major. Like nothing to report. Yeah. I had some for dinner last night. They were bloody lovely.
So I guess, David, like we've referenced in our masterclasses, the only downside, well, not only, but a downside with pre-prep is that you probably don't have a lot of variety to pick from. So you sort of get what you're given, and I'm sure they do. They've got their due diligence, and they're doing a good job. But yeah, David, carry on with the reports. You on to fish.
Yeah. So fish, obviously, I'm talking about frozen at sea here. Main driver is that parent seed quotas are the lowest of the 30 years. As the scientists have found that the year's class of fish is smaller. And obviously they wanted 32% cut this year and next. So this is going into next year as well, which is bad news. The fishermen went for 25, which is still a lot. So a lot of boats are in harbour for at least 3 to 4 months. So that's a big problem. But obviously, this is an ongoing commitment to sustainability and to protect the biomass. Not sure if I want to go here, really, but the fact is that the UK put a 41% tariff on Russia compared to 6% in the EU. But half of the Barents Sea, which is Russia, isn't sending anything to UK. And there's a moral argument, I know, that there should be these levels. But the simple fact is the Russians don't need to send a single box to the UK. So in a way, is the tariff actually hurting our business much more? Not them.
It's not hurting the Russians.
No. But I still think there's that we've, going back to Fish and Chip Day, all that, I think the message we have to drive home as an industry, gram for gram, ounce for ounce, pound for pound, fish and chips is still best value, cleanest, and least processed takeaway out there.
So you think positive messaging is what we should be doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, before we move on to David Nicolaou, he's going to give us a bit of a rundown on some tariffs. Thanks for that, David Miller. That's great. Well, one thing I wanted to touch on, just on potatoes, we said we're coming towards the end. I went to a shop the other day and they're already on Egyptian. They want to get, they're trying to get on early. Great variety from Egypt. To Egypt.
And is that because they've had problems?
No,
do you think?
No. They just wanted to avoid any issues. They wanted to jump on something to get, their suppliers got some in place, and they thought, you know what, why not? And so I just think, and I think the planting is different in Egypt. Obviously, the weather's different, the soil's different. So why not? They just thought, why not? They've got the abundance there. The suppliers got them in good supply. So they thought, why not? And I tasted a couple. They were nice. Yeah, they were nice. But it get you over the hump, I guess. Maybe it's a bit too early to get over the hump. But, we've still got a bit longer there. But, So, David Nicolaou, you wanted to give us a rundown on tariffs.
I'm trying to keep it as... It's a complicated...
You look like you're about to have a seizure already. You're going to keep it simple.
Yeah, just trying to keep it really, really simple. So, obviously, and the tariffs are in relation to America and what that has on Norway and Iceland specifically. So, as you might be aware, that America's placed a base tariff of 10% on everything and everywhere. Norway had a 15% tariff because they've got higher reciprocal tariffs with the USA. There's a 90-day pause in at the moment, which just brings everything down to 10%. So the tariffs are still there, but there's no differential tariffs between Norway and Iceland. So the tariffs are actually paid by the importer. The importer's got to pay them. So American businesses are paying, obviously not the exporters from Iceland or Norway. So, internally, it makes the product less attractive. So imported fish tends to be switched out for domestic stuff that they can get across from, I guess, Alaska and the other side. So there's an opportunity, I guess, for us to be a preferential supplier because we've got no trade tariffs between them. David, we haven't got any trade tariffs between Norway and Iceland, have we?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's frictionless. So the longer that goes on, I guess, the better it is for us as an importer because we're going to be preferential because we're not, we haven't got the cost that's going to be applied in America. So I guess the Americans are switching out Norwegian supply and Icelandic supply. There's very little evidence to see because it's very new that it's happening. But the second thing I've been looking at is I was trying to sort of wonder if the price that's gone up has an exchange rate relationship to it as well. So if the exchange rates are moving about, obviously we're buying it in US dollars and probably Icelandic krona. So in October 2024, cod was around £170 for an 18 kilo case. This is skinless pin bone in. Which works out at 29,500 krona. This is Icelandic krona. I'm concentrating on this week. The 235 roughly for the same box. 40,000 Icelandic krona. So it's not an exchange rate issue. So it's things are getting more expensive. We can't just say that the exchange rates will level up. Things are going to come back down. Now the weird thing is, if you ever want to get rid of inflation, you can work everything back into gold. And the scary thing is that in October 24, one pack of fish was 2.6 grams of gold. That was the value. And today, the 235 is 2.64 grams of gold. There's about an 8% variance. So the whole moral of this is that the price rises, there will be some stock issues, but the prices are going up with inflation. The whole thing, the commodities inflationary, which basically means don't bank on it ever getting back down to 170. So it may settle around the 210s, 220s, but I think the 170, so sub £200. If I'm right with this, and I'll keep checking it, I think those days are over. So you're going to have to price in the fact that fish is not coming back down anytime soon.
one. Thanks for that, David. That was,
No, it's okay.
No, thanks for that, because I think it is important to look at these tariffs and how fish moves
the,
globally.
the assumption is that it's a temporary thing and it's going to pull back. But I don't know if you remember the government saying inflation, it's just transitory, it'll pull back. It didn't. Yeah. It's sticky and it's there. So the people that say, no, don't worry, because like next year we're not put the price up, we're not going to price it in, we'll ride it out and it'll pull back in 6 months and we'll be back to, sub 200s, everything's golden. I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen. And I hope I'm wrong, because obviously it's a big impact to all our businesses. But from where it looks, from where I'm looking now, the numbers, those prices probably, plus 200 are going to be here for a while.
As we started this podcast, it was on the news that Russia has announced a 3-day ceasefire, and that's off the back of another little ceasefire a few weeks ago. If we're lucky enough, and when I say us, I don't mean we're the primary beneficiaries of this luck. If we're lucky enough that this war finishes for the Ukrainians and the Russians, do we see fish prices loosening a bit? Because Russia is the biggest importer of fish was the biggest importer of fish to the UK. And they've made it clear, Putin and co have made it clear that any full ceasefire means that there's no trade stipulations like that they all fall away. So obviously you'd need 6 to 9 months for that to even out, but does that ever happen?
It'd be interesting to know what a kilo of fish that Russia's selling in Chinese currency. Once you know that number, you can kind of work out where everything else sits.
I wonder if like some of the fish listeners that we've done, the fish guests that we've done podcasts would know David.
Yeah, find out.
We could find out. Yeah, I think Gary Warner would.
Well, I spoke to Warren from Express, and he put me in touch with Simon, his boss, and I got the sort of a basic lowdown of how it works. But it's obviously it's quite a detailed process. So I'm trying to keep it nice and simple, just to keep the conclusions there.
So broadly thinking, I was chatting to a fish supplier the other day, quite high up, knows his stuff, and he said, and I'd love your opinions here, guys, and I need everyone's opinions because it is contentious. But he was saying that MSC have failed in their duty to some degree because the Norwegians had clearly overfished their waters 2 years on the trot.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. What do you guys think to that?
Well, that's news to me.
Well, because
I've never heard that before, and I speak to quite a few people.
Well, no, because they did the if you remember, I think Gary mentioned it, and I think Bobby mentioned it, that they had reduced quotas, but they chose not to follow the stringent line. They chose to sort of meet halfway a bit. So essentially, that overfished. And what he's saying is, if anybody else had sort of done that, MSC would have basically said, we're drawing a line in the sand here.
I just think the way you've said it is they've deliberately gone out to...
Well, I guess, but I guess it is deliberate, though, because...
Are you more thinking dereliction of duty?
Well, call it what you will. It is deliberate, because if you say, for example, if the government scientists say, you've got to drop this by 40%, and the politicians say, no, we're going to go for 20%. Someone made a deliberate choice. And now, I'm not saying it was malevolent. There's a difference. I'm not saying it was to be nasty or to be bad. They've got political choices to also make,
But do MSC have any legal framework that these countries are signed up to so they can...
I guess it's a contractual framework. If people have joined MSC, then, yeah.
I think the simple fact is, if you've got fishermen... big boats being tied up for 3 to 4 months. Those crew are going to go work wherever they can to get the work. They have to get the money in to keep those boats going. And as a unit together, they've agreed, right, we agree it's got to be reduced, and we'll do it over 2 years. But we have to have 20. We've got to fish. We'll drop it 25% to keep going.
I think the original comment was that 2 years ago, before they got themselves into this position, MSC should have been on this. Is that what is asserting?
Possibly, yeah. When we don't know, they may have been. We don't know. The person that was chatting to you about this said, if you look at all the fishing areas, the Icelandics do listen and do follow the law, or even the framework that they've entered into. Whereas in this instance, this person suggested that the Norwegians didn't. And to be fair, like, they have to make political choices and economic choices. No one, we don't live in a vacuum, but that should also have consequences, he was saying. So there was no malevolence in this conversation. It was just an observation. If it was anybody else, would they have got their hands wrapped? And also one of the considerations could be that they didn't do anything, or MSC didn't do anything, because there are supply issues because of what's going on with Russia at the moment. So obviously if MSC then slapped the hands of whoever, could that have drove prices further north?
I take it as it's the marine biologists of the three nations that get together and say this is what we suggest.
Well, it is apparent that those.
I wonder what Russia's cut back to. Have they cut back?
Have they? Yeah, I don't know. Again, but they share a lot of the Barents Sea with Norway, don't they? So
yeah. Well, they run half of it. Yeah.
So no, it was just a thought process. Not that it's but it does make me wonder. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously I don't know how much your customers. I don't know who of you are MSC certified. I've got no idea. But David Miller, to be clear. So I don't know. Do customers look at that and say, "Oh, I don't know how far the message gets." It's difficult.
Well, we try and push it, but do people get it? I'm not sure, but I just feel it's a good thing to be part of, and it doesn't cost that much money, and it keeps you current. And I know there's a lot of views out there that haven't done this, they haven't done that. I mean, they're starting again this year. They're going to get proper auditors. You've got to sign in for it. It's going to be a bit more money. NFFF have taken it on. I've just had my first sort of liaison with them about what's happening. I mean, it's got to happen yet. There's a long way to go. But
we said we'd see how it goes and we'll jump back in later on because there's been a few false starts with it. And it needs to be worthwhile.
I put my amounts in of what I've used in the year. It's 100. I think I can't remember what the price is. I paid it. I've got the license to be able to use it at the moment. Yeah, I've not been inspected or accredited, but at the moment, I feel it's a good thing to do.
And we're all using MSC anyway. That's the other thing.
Yeah. Whether it's accredited,
they have won. It's not.
Yeah.
They've done such a good job that there's very little non-MSC
you can't
into the market. So, in that case, they may have been so successful that they've done themselves out of a job.
One other thought process, and I've had this about potatoes over the years, and I'd love your opinion on this, is if fish, cod, let's use cod as an example. If cod keeps going from 300 to 150, 300 to 150, is that like this feast and famine approach? Is this a problem in itself? Would it be better if it was just? I know this would be controlling markets, and we'd know more about that. But wouldn't it be better to some degree if it was always 200? And then everyone can work to that. If you knew for the next 2 years it was going to be X,
and if you want to just suspend the whole rules of demand and supply,
no, I get that. No, I do get that, David. But I'm just thinking this
rewrite the economic rule book.
Yeah. I guess that is playing.
Well, you could
fast and loose with economics. I know that.
But the markets are inflationary.
Yeah.
And they're also opportunistic as well. And they're also supposed to be rational. So the idea is that everyone knows what the price is. People will take opportunities. And they are inflationary because, debt grows. And that ends up in commodities. Not wishing to get too far down that road. But yeah, so you'd never, ever, 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 unless you put in sort of a communist planned economy price, this is the price of that, and then you get horrendous shortages and massive problems.
I'd imagine one of the biggest problems with fish is that the supply, it is literally at the thick end of supply and demand, because if fish and chip shops or whoever is buying the fish isn't using it, so less demand, and let's say they've got an abundance, with these things always seem to be at opposite ends always. So whereas if you look at wheat in the UK, we have a small surplus. It's always quite steady. Even a few years ago when it went crazy, it wasn't crazy at all. It felt crazy for wheat, but it wasn't. So I do think fish, just maybe it's the wild nature of it, just seems a lot more volatile.
Yeah, it's 100 species as well, isn't it? But not only that, I mean, there's lots of fish out there, but our customers will only eat cod or haddock.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And that's the other problem. And we've tried. I mean, you were saying on the group chat, there's some good puns flying around for Mark was putting on there, and I said, they're going to have to be, earth shattering puns to sort of shift people away from cod or haddock. We've tried all sorts. We've tried pollock, we've tried hokey, we've tried hake, we've cut them into cod bites, put on the counter, given them for free.
You chopped up hake as cod bites.
No, cod bites.
Sorry,
yeah. Let's rephrase that.
Yeah.
We chopped up the hake into small bits and fried them and put them on the counter. I'll be clear with my language. And that's beautiful. Well, would you like some hake? No, I'll have cod. Yeah. It's like, you try. I don't know. We just wrestle them to the ground until they agree with me. I don't know. That's the other alternative.
It's crazy because in a retail setting, and maybe it's different when it's in a box with all the marketing. But the amount of people that I see that would buy hokey, bassa, that buy all of these species, and they must know. We've got trade acts in the UK; they must know what they are. I just think it's people's perception or what their expectations of a fish and chip shop.
I'd love to know, if the Venn diagram of people that interact with fish in fish and chip shops and fish in supermarkets, how much overlap there is. And I just get the feeling that the only exposure that people get to fish is in a fish and chip shop, that they aren't actually buying it in supermarkets and bass.
They must be buying fish at the
Well, no, I'm just saying. I'd love to know what the overlap is between fish and chip, consumers in terms of shops and supermarkets, and how much overlap there is, and whether it's like 100% or 10%. I'd love to know that, because there's no way of finding it, but. As I say, people do seem to be a lot more adventurous when they're buying it, off a shelf than they are when they walk through the door.
The biggest 5 fish in the UK is cod, haddock, prawn, salmon, and tuna. So I don't think the British are an adventurous bunch. But then saying that, they're all the premium products. We are buying the premium products.
They're not buying rubbish, are
no. Because it's a first world country, whatever you say.
Yeah. Sure.
And when we were in Norway and we saw the salted cod they were doing, they showed us how the best salt cod was coming to the UK. It was going to Spain, Portugal. And then when you then got down to the salted coley with bone in and skin on, hardly any trim, lots of blood spots, it was going to Africa and so on. And obviously that's a spectrum, again, extremes. There was middle ones as well. So it just, maybe the British just want what they want because they can afford it. And and
it's bloody good.
Yeah, and it is good.
It's a phenomenal product. It really is. It
is the creme de la creme, So So David, thanks.
Who can blame them?
Yeah. David Nicolau, thank you for that rundown. It was insightful.
Fine. I'll keep an eye on it, because I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Kelly, did you want to say something about that?
I was just going to say, we've taken a bit of a different. Obviously, you were saying about customers not trying stuff, David, and I agree. We've done it so many times where you put stuff on the counter and bits and pieces. But I did a podcast with Lorraine this morning, and she said that when they do a lot with Fisherman's Mission. And she said that when they do tasters on the counter, they often ask for a donation. She put hake on the counter. She kept pushing hake through that sort of tasters, but put 50p in the pot for a taster. So she kind of was doing a bit of a charity thing as well. And she said it became so popular that she put hake on the menu and took place off. And I know obviously not lots of people sell place, but it's a big thing down here.
Yeah.
But yeah, she said that hake is one of her best sellers in her shop now. Next, I know cod is still the best seller, and it probably always will be. And we equally have done. I've taken mini cod off the menu and put mini fish on the menu, so that what I can get my hands on that's good quality but at a slightly cheaper price, because we just weren't selling mini cod to the extent that we should have been. And we just put on the menu that, this will vary depending on what we can get. And it's not really made much of a difference in terms of people want to know what they're, it's not like people have gone, no, I'm not having it because it's mini fish. So they then may have bought 2 mini fish, which are a slightly cheaper price, which at the moment is coley. And obviously when you look at coley, it's grey and looks a bit nasty, but we fried some up and got the staff to try it, and we got the staff to push it out as well, because I think that was a big thing for us. We were trying to upsell all this new, different species, But the staff were like, I've never tried it. Don't know what it tastes like. So that's, you're like, oh no. Especially when it looks, like it does. But yeah, we've got the
It's
stuff.
a bit fishy.
Yeah, so it tastes a bit funny.
I think Coley tastes fine. I think it looks.
I love
It's got
it.
that
It's
grey
great.
blue colour, but when it cooks, it's all right. Like, again, it's decent product. You wouldn't turn your nose up at it. I wouldn't.
I think if we put Coley on the menu, there might be a lynching in the green. They're very Yorkshire people are very, very hard to.
I think you've got to know your area, haven't you?
Yeah,
like
they're very hard to change.
Yeah.
They know what they're like, and they keep buying it. But saying that, we put the price up to keep paying it, so
yeah.
very little comfort.
Mark, what do you think, mate?
Well, I listened to the whole debate with interest, but I take a really different view on. I don't really play the blame game, whether it's MSC, whether it's the Norwegians, whether it's the Russians, but I'm so far down the supply chain that my attitude to the whole fish situation is: these are the cards we're being dealt. How do we play them the best way possible? I don't care who's caused it. Fact of the matter is, that's the landscape now. Get used to it,
Absolutely.
And I gave a talk at an exhibition recently, the Fry's Pride one, and my whole approach to it was about maximising your yield from your slab, because the biggest influence on your fish bill isn't just the price per kilo or the price per pound. It's how many portions you get to a slab. And if you only get, and I'll keep the numbers simple, you only get 30 portions to a slab, you're giving 30 customers 30 experiences per slab. And the cost of your fish bill is how much it is to replace your stock each week. So if you've got to replace 10 slabs of fish because you've given 300 experiences, well, if you're getting 60 portions per slab, or you're giving 60 customers an experience, and that means that the next week you've only got to replace 5 slabs because you've fed just the same amount of people, your fish bill's in half. And so the lesson from that is, how do we maximise our yield? How do we get our fish bill down, and yet still keep this premium product on our menu? Because you can't sell a champagne for lemonade money. You can't do it, but we're still trying to sell cod like it was this really cheap, disposable, affordable food for the masses. So my idea or my suggestion to the audience was, yes, keep cod on the menu, but instead of selling, 300 grams of it for £8 or £9, you make you put it into, I don't know, a selection box, and you put 50 grams of cod in there with some scampi, with some calamari, with some salt and pepper squid, with some Coley goujons and some hake. And so the cod's still in there, but you've longed your cod out. You've made it go further. Or you lose large cod, and if you want a large fish, it's got to be a haddock or it's got to be a hake. And again, you make your cod go further. Your light bite meal, that's great. Do the light bite as cod, but make your regular fish going forward haddock or hake. So if people want to choose cod, they can still have cod, but the margin's right. And you're actually getting so many more portions per slab that when you come to replace your stock, the price of replacing your stock has gone down, because you're feeding so many more customers with your premium product.
Yeah.
Do you get so that's where I've come from.
I can elaborate on that a little bit as well, actually, because about 2 weeks ago, a customer of ours that's got 7 shops, maybe 6 or 7 shops, his target fish weight was always 8 ounce. And over the time, it's floated to 8 to 10. So straight away, there's 1 to 2 ounce there going without realising. And it reminded me of a saying that Raphael Chandler told me, which is profits made on the cutting board. And so this customer started to trim back to 8 ounce. Every customer is getting 8 ounce. Like, he's swapped it over to grams, and he's finding it's a bit more accurate than ounces. And he said that he's using all the trim for homemade fish cakes. And what he does with the homemade fish cakes is that he puts them on a good offer for the lunchtime, especially. So fish cake, chips and peas, or fish cake, chips and whatever side, whatever it may be. He's done like a fish cake butty as well, which again, like if you like that sort of thing. But he said, because the trim really hasn't got a lot of value, because he's made the profit on the fish, and now he's got a secondary product to serve with, and this experienced seasoned operator, and this what goes back to recalibration. Yeah, recalibrating, looking at my practices, looking at everything, looking at, he was buying fish cakes in, which now he's not, so now he's not only made his business more efficient, but he's not buying something else in, which ties up his cash flow. So yeah, it was just interesting that, I've always known this because that's how I sell that product, as those are the selling points. But it was interesting to see someone with 6-7 shops go through that process. And I do think that in the times of abundance and low prices, we all get a bit slack. Yeah, everybody, every business, whatever it is, or every home, when electric's cheap, we leave the lights on, So I think when prices go up, it does make everybody reevaluate their practices. Good.
It's more than just making fish cakes. There's so many things that you can do, but people don't do.
What they do is moan, though, don't they? That's the trouble.
Absolutely, yeah. But so nice.
Scales don't lie.
No, mine don't. Yeah. So David Miller, give us a rundown, David Miller, of your price increase.
So I'm going to be really transparent here. You're going to hear how I work it, whatever. So I always try to look ahead. I don't like putting prices up every 10 minutes and all that. So I've looked at what's going on. I went back to last April, looked at what everything's gone up. So basically, we know what's happened in April, so we've got to counter that. I think Dave is very right in saying that we're not going to see low prices again in fish for quite a bit. I think we're going to be sticking there for at least a couple of years. So what I've done with my menu is I've put everything up 4%, right across the board. Not messed about. I've just taken everything and put it up 4%. That's like my sausages, that sort of thing. And doing that, all of that is in 72% gross GP and further up the ladder. So I'm happy with that. Fish, a different matter. So let me just explain what I've done or looked at with my fish. I've actually gone 7%. I would have liked to have gone 10%. But in the area I just can't price myself out. I've got to be careful and mindful on that. So I've edged the bets and I've only put chips up a 10-ounce portion, 10p from what it was. So I've gone from 2.90 to 3. But I am willing to put that up a bit later, let the dust settle. My regular chips have gone to 3.90. Sorry, my large, which is 14 ounces, that's the one I want to push. That's 14 ounces. My regular haddock 6 to 7 ounce. I've gone from 7.70 to 8.20. And then my large fish, I've gone from £9 to 9.65. This is the biggest I've ever done in my life. Everything else I say I'm hitting above 72%, which is great. But my fish is coming out, my regular haddock percentage GP after that, 68.24. My jumbo haddock 57.47, cod 56.23. But money I'm making, or gross profit I'm making on a regular is 466, jumbo 462, and a cod 444. So I'm not far off in what I'm wanting to be making per fish. And I just think that you've just got to get it all right. And like Mark says, using your knife, thinking out the box, all these things can actually back up that fish while we're going through such a rough time. And I just wondered how you've gone about it this year. I've not guessed it. I took 3 weeks on really sitting down and working out what's it gone up from last April, everything. And I just thought, I'm just going to go for it. And I don't care what people say. If they want to go somewhere else, let them go. I've got to survive as a business. But the funny story is we have an old chap that comes in every Friday with the same money. So we've all got customers like that, haven't we? For the last 4 weeks, he's had extra money in his pocket because he knew it was going to go up. But he said, oh, well, that's fine. I know everything's gone up. and got his fish and chips and walked out. And we've had nobody say anything.
No, I think there's been that much information
So
that the entire thing's been front run, that everybody knows it's going up.
The best time we've never had a situation behind us where we can get the pricing right.
Can I just? I forgot to add this to the list actually. Mark, you were saying a while ago about moving your customers to haddock.
Yeah.
And obviously South Yorkshire, where we are, it's just massive cod. It's cod country. And I think we were about 10% haddock, 90% cod on the split. So what we did was reorganise the online menu. So the first option you got was haddock. And that we've priced the haddock a bit cheaper than cod anyway, just to try and push it out the door. We've always had it roughly at the same price because it made no difference to us whether we sold it or not. Because I mean, there's plenty on the cod, but our haddock sales online have gone up by 15%.
Wow!
Because that option when you click down and say large fish, small fish, the first option you get on either side of the fish is haddock first, cod second.
Yeah,
and that alone, it's tipped the balance for us. So we're pushing out a lot more haddock than we were, and it's been so. You got me thinking about not just sort of pushing them into it, but nudging them that way. So we're just about to reorganise the menu in the digital menu. We're going to get that arranged, so that's going to lead with haddock as well. So you can nudge people in a different direction, I guess. But I just thought it's interesting to mention that it was always cod leading, and then we swapped it round, and it's more
these companies, David, that you work with, like we work with Low, they're masters at it.
Yeah,
they know exactly how to set your menu up and how people work. Listen to them and say, right, if we put the large up here, with other add-ons, I promise you will. And
who's that? Sorry,
Look.
I've never. I think we're starting to think about a mini refit and changing all the menu boards around and linking new tills in and getting all getting sorted. So I'll have a chat to you about that as well.
Yeah, good
Thank
company.
you.
Kelly, my dear.
I was going to say, 2 points. First of all, David, we did exactly what you did. We looked at pricing. We did 2.5 in November. So we knew we needed to put our prices up by 5% to get to where we wanted to be. So we did 2.5 in November, and we're about to do 2.5 when we get back from holiday. So that we've got that. We're doing what we need to do. And what you just mentioned about kind of changing structures of menu boards, I think Mark Petru he's the one that kind of taught me that a long time ago. I think there was a lot of conversation around doing that and meal deals and how that comes across, because people look at things as a whole and pushing things into the forefront. So yeah, Mark's. I know Mark. I think Mark's an expert on that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Kelly. That's kind. I have got things on my menu that I don't want to sell. They're on the menu to do a job, like halibut. I've got one bit of halibut in my freezer called Eric. I've never sold him. He's wrapped up in cling film, and he's on the menu just to make everything else look cheap. Nobody's going to pay 16 quid for a bit of halibut to take away, but he does a job. And I've got other things on my menu as well, so that people come in, they look at the menu, they think, oh, fuck me, I'm not paying that. I'll have the cod. And you can, we're really good at underselling the thing that we want to sell with cheaper alternatives as well. And, this is a well-trodden path. We want to sell fish and chips, but what do we offer? We offer sausages, we offer fish cakes, we offer, so if you're going to sell something less and give people a cheaper alternative so they can keep their meal under a tenner or whatever, make sure that you add value to those menu items by telling them that it's homemade or that it's a 100-year-old Irish recipe, or little tip there for Scott Winnie because he's a mate. There's always a way where you can build in value. So if people choose, and I don't mind if I don't sell cod if I'm getting a bigger margin, because replacing that cod's expensive. So making your menu work for you and giving people the perception. I think, Stell, it kind of leads on to something that I wanted to talk about anyway. Whereas about the crossroads being at a bit of the industry being at a bit of a crossroads.
Can you hold that point? So I just wanted to counter, just for the audience's benefit, a question to David.
Yeah.
Which David?
Nick Miller. Sorry, Nicker Miller. David, just thinking out loud, the biggest motivations behind the price increases. For example, obviously we know that wages went up, they've gone up now. People might be behind the curve a little bit, but they've gone up. And NI, potatoes, dripping, and packaging are down a bit, and haddock's cheaper than it was 24 months ago. So, what are you trying to sort of beat? What are you trying to sort of jump over?
I still want to make good profit. I want to be able to pay my staff. I want to everything. I look at it always April. There's no better time.
You have a time every year. You do it once a year.
April. Yeah. Okay. And I just want to stay well in front because you never know what's going to happen.
So that makes more sense.
And what I don't like doing is scrambling about, and they've forgotten that now. What I don't want to be doing is August chasing my tail once I get me next quarter through, and they go, we've lost money on that, and I'll go, we'll have to get the price up, and then it sticks in people's minds, doesn't it? So that's my drive. My driver is.
You have a strategy, though. Clearly,
the strategy is I want to make money, and I'm not embarrassed about that. And I want to make good.
What
money.
I wanted to make clear is that you do actually have a strategy, and that every year or for April time, you sit down and you plan for the year ahead of you. Whereas sometimes some people may not have a strategy; they'll get a shock bill or shock invoice and scramble a bit and think, "Shit, fish price went up, cod price went up, packaging price went up," and then you're sort of always doing little jumps all the time, and that might also offend people.
Well, then you don't understand your business, then, do you?
Yeah.
Kelly,
I'm sorry, I don't, and please don't think I'm insulting people there, but you need to get in. There's no time in the world now to get to grips with your financials.
Yeah. We do. I was just going to say, like we used to do once a year, but we do every quarter now.
Yeah, we do every quarter.
Yeah, every quarter I'll sit down and I'll look at either what's coming or what's happened and where we are. And I think for us, we look at it every month individually, but when you're looking at your GP and everything, it's every quarter.
Do you do it with the accountants, Kelly?
To be honest, Tim and I do it together. So we will sit down and work out where we're at. I'll go through all the price increases. I'll look at what's coming. I'll speak to suppliers, find out are they going up? Are they going down? Like, where are we at? Tim's the driver behind that, if I'm honest. And I'm the one that then kind of when we have monthly staff management meetings, we'll sit and look at it and we'll talk about it with them as well. So they either know what's coming or that things are stable at the moment. It's really important.
Yeah, it's like our accountant said, in December you spent a lot on packaging. Well, Christmas. Oh, yeah. Well, we should expect to see that come down then. And we're thinking, Christ, I hope it does.
Yeah. But, you've got to prepare for these things, or at least be on the phones trying to find out of wholesalers what's going on, and plan for the future. And so Mark, you wanted to say, and I rudely interrupted you, that you thought that the industry was at a crossroads. Elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, I think that there are some shops that are fish and chip shops. They are branded as fish and chip shops. It might be in their name. They might lead with fish and chips, but there's and fish and chips as a meal, as a brand. It's it's in the heart of the nation. I get all of that. I won fish and chip shop of the year. I haven't got fish and chips in my brand name, and as my business has evolved and I've tried to future-proof my business, I've actually made my menu focus more and more and more on fish and chips. I've taken kebabs off my menu. I've taken, loads of things off my menu to try and focus more towards fish and chips. So I don't really think that I'm bashing fish and chips, because I've got batter in my veins, and I strongly believe in the strength of the product. But there are shops out there that have just the same affection, but really they're a chippy. Everybody loves a chippy tea, and there's no mention of the word fish. Everybody loves a chippy tea. People are going to go to the chippy, and I think that we're at a point where the chippy may well break away from the fish and chip shop and stand on its own 2 feet. Fish and chips might be getting a divorce, and I think it's a conversation or something that's definitely up for debate. If you go to Holland, and and look at the chip shop scene over there. It's all about chips. It's absolutely all about chips, and they're a fresh potato product, but they are blanched, and then they're held above the range where we would have a display. They'd have a chip dump, and then they'll finish the chips on demand, and they'll serve them with all sorts of fried products. Really stretchy, cheesy things, croquettes, fish cakes. There might be all sorts of fry-its. You think of it, and it can be fried, but very rarely is there a fish product in a Dutch chippy. Look at the Australian scene. More fish and chip shops in Australia than in the UK, but it's all about the fish in Australia. They've got so many wonderful species around their coastline that you'll see probably 10 different species on the menu, all served with frozen chips. It's pretty much an industry that's built with a frozen chip product, and the chip is part of the fish and chip experience in Australia to make sure you're full once you've scoffed the fish. There's chips left, and people always leave chips. There's always, and they don't have frying ranges. They have these Pitco big, they have
they give a lot of potato fritters away in Australia as well, don't they?
But it's a different marriage. And when we look at the UK market, there is a divergence. There's the chippy, and then you've got your fish and chip shop.
But sorry to interrupt there, Mike, because just to add to your point there, we were chatting about this, I think it was a week ago or so on the phone, but I think this already exists. I think there are lots of shops out there. So you did a podcast with Brent. That is what I would call a typical fish and chip shop. Like traditional fish and chip shop. He would see himself as a chippy, I think. But I know it's just a play on words. I know that. But I know shops that do kebabs. I know shops that do pizza. If you go to Scotland, nearly all fish and chip shops will be doing a pizza product. Ice cream. Giovanni was doing ice cream and pizza and pasta dishes 15 years ago. So what do you think's different then?
Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make isn't that there's this big event going to happen. I think it's already happened. I think with fish being the price that it is and the quality premium product that it is, in the past, the mandate for fish and chips has always been affordable food for the masses. And I think that we now have to recognise that fish is now it's a premium product. If people want to choose cod, they want to choose haddock, they've got to pay the right price for it, and that prices it out for certain working class people. And I think that the chippy is going to end up becoming the working man's weekly treat, and there may not be room or fish may not remain on that menu, and the fish and chip shop may end up being more a different kind of offer. I think fish and chips is always going. It's one of those meals. It's iconic. Yeah. It's always going to be there. But I think we don't have to make that choice yet. But I think it's worth acknowledging, recognising, and maybe talking about.
I'm not sure if I'd not to disagree for the sake of disagreeing. I don't know if it's a problem, and I'll tell you why. Jem Optem, friend of the show, customer of Ceres, good chap all over. He has a theory that fish and chips has always been, and many do have this. I don't know whether it's true. We've not done the data on it, but many people think that fish and chips is linked, or at least metaphorically, to the price of an hour work. Yeah, so our minimum wage. Yeah. And I think that if that's the case, then it's well under it for the most part, and maybe hits it in some areas. I think it's still a working man's meal. I think it's in every person's meal. But I don't buy. I think this is an internal sales problem. I don't think it's out of bounds for the average Joe. I think it's still way in bounds. Well, I follow a lot of Chinese takeaways, Indian takeaways. If people are spending 14 quid or whatever for a Chinese I still think fish and chips is way in there. I just think it's a perception issue. Are we doing a good job as an industry of selling it for what it is? A really nice treat, a guilty pleasure. That's what I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and let us know who you think is wrong or but I think that's what my opinion is, that I think that there's always been this, some fish and chip shops only sell fish and chips and other shops sell lots of other things with fish and chips, whether it's kebabs, southern fried chicken, pizza, pies. That's always existed. But it'd be interesting to see what you're saying, see if it does manifest. David Miller?
They used to say, didn't they? I mean, I'm not advocating it, but it used to be a price around the price of a packet of cigarettes.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Fags. Yeah.
If that's the case, we're bang on price, aren't we? Really?
Yeah.
It's cheap. We're bang on price.
I think this is the problem when as an industry we self-immolate, when we literally set fire to ourselves when there's inflation and we go on the news. And I'm not on about one person, I'm about the industry, whether it's local papers, local radio stations, national news. And we literally do that sad face with our hands out saying, oh, it's really hard out there. Fish has gone up. Oh, guess what? You're basically telling a subset who watch the news, don't bother coming in because it's expensive now. And I think, whereas if you don't see the Indian takeaways do it, you don't see the Chinese takeaways do it. Nobody, as in even the individual owners, I mean, on a local level, at the bottom level, we do not see that. You do not see McDonald's doing it. You don't see Greg's doing it. So why do we do it? And that's what turns people off fish and chips. And I don't mean it's a top down. I think sometimes it's a bottom up thing as well. I really do think that we've got to stop doing it because it only turns people off. I guarantee you now, if you went to Tesco and when you walked in, it said, by the way, ham is now £2 a kilo more than it was yesterday, you wouldn't buy ham. You'd buy chicken or something. Yeah. And that's spam or whatever. And I think, I love spam. So what I'm saying is, spam ain't cheap.
It's a premium pork product, spam.
Yeah. And
thank you very much.
So it's a genuine replica. So
you can't throw it down the high street, that's for sure.
Yeah. So
or an alley.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. So I do think this is a messaging issue. And, we keep announcing the bad news. And I don't just mean organizations, I mean shop owners. Yeah. So stop announcing bad news. Yeah. And start promoting the positives. Like David gave us a little riff earlier about how it's the best quality product, ounce for ounce, pound for pound. We need to be selling what we have. Yeah. I'm not utterly convinced there is a cost of living crisis either. I think it's a crisis of our own doing. Now, I'll tell you how, for a moment. Car sales are remaining strong to some degree. People are still buying £150 trainers. Yeah. And I think it's what people are wanting to buy. I'm not advocating that it isn't tough, but I think what people are doing is saying, you know what? I don't want to buy anything mediocre anymore. My perception is that something is worth more and I'll pay for that happily. And I think this is why we're seeing some Gregs are struggling. Me and David's talked about this on the podcast, and we're seeing Five Guys doing really well. Five Guys, you literally need to sell a kidney to get a burger and fries, and yet they're doing really well. So, I think that, is it a perception issue? Are we creating a negative perception of the industry? Not me and you. I mean the industry. But I'm happy to. Let's put a pin in this one and let's see in 3 months' time, 6 months' time. You've been around a long time, Mark. You know a thing or two, and you are in the industry. You are one of the best marketing leaders, and so I do believe that. So
stop. Look, I listened to podcast 1 the other day with me and you. We recorded it in 2018, and we made some predictions. This was all pre-COVID, and when you listen to that podcast, the things that we talked about there, they stood up. And
I think you got the invasion of the space aliens wrong, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean,
they're just watching us, David.
We don't need an NFF, a National Federation of Non-Fish Fryers. I don't think we're gonna end up with a 2-tier system of working class chippies that can't afford to sell fish to their customers. The point that I was trying to make is we have to adapt or die. Every shop needs to stay in tune with their own customers' needs, and we have to, evolve our menus and keep doing, keep changing. That's the point that I'm actually.
I've got two great points to that though, and I was going to mention them later, but I think they fit here. And it was just a couple of tweets that I was sent the other day, and so one was just a meme, but it was a business person meme, and it said, every business has cycles. When it's easy, save cash. When it's hard, cut fat. When it's uncertain, stay calm. The most adaptable business wins. Now that made me think. Nowhere there did it say add more stuff to the menu. And I think a lot of the time, everyone thinks being adaptable means changing the menu. And I think a lot of the time, actually, it just means doing those things when it's tight, cut back on, on fat. How many shops I know that still open 7 days a week, all day, every day. And when and when I listen to that podcast with Brent Watson doing 25.5 hours a week, yeah, like that tells you something. Like, are we making the wrong mistakes when we're faced with challenges? And then look, we all make the wrong decisions. It happens. We're not infallible. But, if you're faced with, higher stock prices, do you add more stuff to the menu and tie up your cash flow? Common sense sort of tells you, being rational and standing away from the problem tells you actually no, I don't want more things that cost me more. I want to make sure I move more of what I have. I look at these cost exercises all day long in my business. But it also made me think, and I was listening to Johnny Ive on a podcast the other day. It was Desert Island Discs. And he said, he was at Apple when they were not Apple, basically. And he says, when there are money problems, everybody focuses on the money, but not the product. But it's the products that create the money. And it just made me think those two comments, so that the tweet and this, in our industry, people see adaptability as increasing the menu, but not focusing on the core offering and building customers by doing the core product better. And I think that's where I sort of land on this, is that we should be focusing on giving the customer the best experience, the tastiest fish and chips. And then we don't have to do the wrong version of adaptability. That's just my thought. I don't know what you lot think, but
I think that Apple came up with I don't think it was Apple. I think it was Simon Sinek actually that did a talk about what is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? And I think that is at the core of every good business, is understanding what is at the core of your business and why are you doing it that way. And you're right. If you carry on looking at the product that you have got in your shop and concentrating and selling it, and it kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it really? Because that's what we've said all the way through, is your core product is so important. But kind of slightly diversing from that, we're looking at, we sell really, really good quality burgers on our menu. We have never promoted it. We sell 500 to 600 burgers a week, and we never promote it. We don't promote the fact that the beef that they're
made from.
Thank you. That they're made from is literally 5 miles down the road. We've got this whole market that's untapped, and we're in the process of doing something with that. And it's so we're not only concentrating on our core product, i.e. fish and chips, and that's what brings in the bread and butter, if you like, but also focusing on, if you've got other good products on your menu that are local and those things, it's kind of making sure that everybody knows about it and looking after all the products on your menu, not just fish and chips, but all of it. The whole thing has to be at the forefront of why we're here.
Yeah. David Nicolau, anything, or should we?
No, I've got nothing.
Oh God,
that was a very nice dovetail to the whole thing.
No, you've capped it off nicely. You've bookended it.
You put a bow on that. That was really good.
I have nothing to
a pleasant bow. So I just want to say I really enjoyed the podcast with Brent. We should have had him on a lot sooner. I put my hands up there, but I think you were the best person for the job there.
Do you know, I've just got to say, it was like being back at school. So I grew up in Barnsley, and I went to a school in Barnsley, and then went to university, and then you're working on projects with people from all over the world. You say, "Are you all right then, lad?" and they just look at you. So you tend to come out at the end of the university, end of the degree with very little accent. It has to be kind of very, nondescript. But it was brilliant because it was like there was words that I hadn't heard in years. Brilliant terms and phrases. Fantastic.
Like Duff.
I do think what I liked about Brent, and this is what I like about him anyway, but it's the fact that if you're with him in his shop, that's exactly how he is. There's no airs or graces. Like he
just came across as someone who does not give a shit.
But that's what's amazing.
No, he does.
He does know about his job.
Yeah.
Everything else in the world is just
in that
ancillary.
shop. Like I've been there when someone's come in and said, "Oh, Shop Down Road." I'm doing a great accent now, aren't I? But Shop Down Road does fish and chips for 50p less, and he's just like, "Yeah, so what? Go and eat it. That's fine." Like they're there. Yeah, exactly. Like, but he's not in a rude way. He's just like, "All right," and that's it. Like
I just think that
he's so nonplussed about that sort of conversation. And he genuinely wishes other chip shops well. Yeah. Like he
came across really well.
Yeah. He's a lovely man.
Yeah.
He's a lovely man. He's got a lovely wife. He's got lovely kids. He's got a great shop. He's got a great product. I hate him.
Yeah.
It is lovingly curated by him and his missus. I don't think he'll not let anybody else have hands on, will he?
No, he's great. He's great. And also that something that came up was a really good long-standing friend in the trade who's very poorly at the moment, Neil Marshall. So I want to just give a shout out to Neil. We wish you a good recovery. He's really struggling at the minute. So it was a lovely podcast to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And David Miller, you had thoughts about the Will Yarm Road fish podcast, not Fish and Chip Shop.
I thought it was great for the leading a young rising star of the industry. Really is a star, isn't he? They've got Fish Up of the Year, him and Graham and the family. What I would have liked, Mark, is a bit later on. I know the journey could have come, absolutely, but it's how is this year gone for
Can you touch base with them in a year then?
Revisit.
Yeah, and I think that maybe you should pencil that in and revisit Will and just say, right, well, how did that year go? Because I think the thing that struck me is they're doing a restaurant at the same time just after they won. I mean, you can't guarantee when you're going to win, and you can't say, well, we need to do this restaurant before the awards are in, but I just hope that, it would have been nice if they got that restaurant done and then really capitalised on this year.
Yeah, he'll be a father and he'll be a married man as well.
Yeah, so there's all that going on.
That'll be interesting.
So it'd be really nice to see how he's balanced all that, and has it put a stress on them? And
interesting to see if he's managed to.
I'm sure the walk through it would be just nice to go. So. If you could have a look at that map for me, I'd really appreciate it.
Should we just plan his diary for him, Mark? We're just going to fill your diary, mate. Yeah. So, yeah.
Sort of January time, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll get him on before the new champ is crowned.
Next month, let alone bloody January.
Never mind what Stell thinks.
I do it. No, I'm with you on this. Do it. But I enjoyed chatting to Graham Kennedy. I think that one thing that impressed me about Graham Kennedy even, is it's the fact that no social media presence, the website's really old, the shop's absolute monsters. It is literally a shop built on word of mouth. There's no selfies being taken. There's no, look at this portion of fish and chips. It is just, and I think some people messaged me and they were just like, I don't get it. How's he managing that? And I was like, well, he's doing a website now and he's taking on the social media people. So maybe I'll be touching base with him in 6 months to a year, because imagine he did all that and it made no difference. Yeah. It tells you something, doesn't it?
I think that's a reflection of his Durham market, I guess.
Yeah. Love, passion, still gets in there every day. Just an incredible setup. And the figures are just mental. And he just takes it in his stride. He never says, I'm tired. He never says, fed up with that. He never moaned. He's never moaned to me when I've talked to him ever about fish prices or anything.
No, just gets on with it. And I just think he probably does need to take it easy, though, because you can't carry on at that pace for that long. And I hope, I know he listens to this. He's an avid listener. And I say it because I care about him. And he's a grand chap. And I've actually seen him tomorrow. So I'll tell him tomorrow in person as well. So...
He was very complimentary of you, David.
Oh,
You want some
you're still going to
Christian
rub your
Ryan style, I
egos
think.
off now, ain't you? I can see it. Look at them both now.
Well,
look.
it was very nice.
You know, because he said something nice about Mark, and then he said something nice about David. They're trying to rub poo in our face, you lot.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was very nice.
Well,
As the
afterwards,
Italians-
I did tell him afterwards, here's a tenner each, and he was, you know.
as the Italians say, these two are bella figuras.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you'd have really thought about it, Estelle, you could have just done a tenner and given him a fiver, couldn't you?
Yeah.
If you'd really thought about
I
it.
just didn't think. I wasn't fast on my toes, you see.
But yeah, great guy, and he's very open.
He was,
if you ring him up and say, "Can I come and see?" He's got no issues with that, and that I think is fantastic. Having that sort of openness, saying, you know, come and if you want to come and see the shop or you want to come and visit me, you know, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's more people like that industry. But yeah, God, he does work. He does work.
Yeah, and you know his daughter's coming into the business now, so hopefully he'll have a bit more of a break. And yeah, I don't blame him. And Kelly, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Kelly's already done a podcast this morning. We're on our first one. Kelly's on her second one. Like she's a machine. She's catching up now. She said she's gunning for Mark's title.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
you can have it, my love.
It was really good this morning. I really enjoyed it. I spoke to Lorraine Arnold from Pierpoint. No, Pier. Yes,
Pierpoint.
that's right.
Pierpoint, yeah.
Because his Paint and Pier was her previous business.
Oh,
yeah.
Pierpoint and Paint and Pier, and I always get the bloody names mixed up. And so did she. So I felt bad.
well, it's a good job you told me that because that headline would have been the old name. Yes.
Can you give me a little spoiler? Did she talk about her television career at all?
No, I asked her as well. I tried to pry, and she didn't.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
What is
I tried
it? What's
to
the deal with that then? Tell us. What is the deal with that?
She was on Corrie.
She used to be in Corrie and EastEnders, and she's done West End stuff as well.
Oh, really?
Brilliant.
We should make her the national TV spokesperson of fish and chips then.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think she'd be quite good.
Didn't
at
she
that.
go on the news and lay
really
into
do.
a news person as well, though? Oh, that was ace. I saw that. That was ace.
Yeah. She's just, do you know what? We literally, so it wasn't, we kind of got into the industry, and then about a year after she got in, she was like, where are you from? And I was like, Burton-on-Trent. And she was like, literally, we were born, I mean, obviously, slightly different ages, but we were born literally like less than 5 miles apart. So we have a lot in common.
Talking of Burton-on-Trent, though, Kelly,
Yeah.
your accent,
Yeah.
in the Sarah part, I don't know if you picked up on this. As anybody's
No.
in the Sarah episode, you kept referring to Real Food Cafe as the Real
God.
Food Caf. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I'm listening to it, just howling. I'm just thinking, if she could just say cafe once, I'll try and cut it in and put it everywhere. But it just sounded like
it's my
cat,
accent.
Gracie Spoon going to the cafe.
It's my accent.
And but I did leave it because it is a Midlandsism. And
Well, don't be putting an accent on things that don't need an accent. That's what I think.
It's French.
it's
I know. No. They put that fancy bit on top. You don't need
Just to
it.
intimidate.
well, Kelly was not intimidated. She carried on.
I ploughed through that podcast. Plowed.
No, I loved it, and
It was hard work because it kept fucking up on the
it
recording.
did.
for
It kept cutting up, didn't it?
It was a nightmare. It was an
tinternet,
absolute nightmare.
the tinternet.
But it was yeah. The internet just kept cutting up, but it was good. I'm finding my flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. And yeah, me and David Miller have got some masterclasses planned, but we've both had personal obligations that have kept us on our toes.
Yeah, I've had a few rough 3 months, and we won't delve into it. We're coming out of it now. We're light the tunnel, and me and Stella are going to get stuck into a few more masterclasses.
Yeah.
So, sorry, it's been a bit dull on that side, but
Can I not leave Barry Dickman out? Can I just
Go
just
for it.
mention that I had the pleasure of righting a wrong, because Barry Dickman was actually the first person I ever podcasted.
Well, you nearly didn't right or wrong. You nearly did the same thing twice.
Yeah, so my first ever podcast was with Barry Dickman, and for technical reasons and other reasons, we couldn't put it out, and I just trying to get Barry back in, and we got to do it a second time, but my audio was awful, which prompted Stelios to come up and fix it. But yeah, Barry was again, he was very, very open, very honest, very, very generous, and it's interesting to listen. If the only Barry Dickman you know is the one at the bar, then you'll get to know him a lot better because there's a lot more to Barry than meets the eye.
Yeah, and then we've got more episodes planned with David Nicolau and our reading. I think there's a lot of newsworthy things happening at the moment, so I think we've got a lot to touch on there. So yeah, and everyone's doing their bit. I've got writers writing, I've got people talking, and
like conducting an orchestra, isn't it?
It is a little bit. And but it's fun. We're all creating amazing content, and the listeners are really loving. I'm hearing it when they're messaging me or I'm seeing them at events, and they're really loving listening to other people's journey. There is a lot to be said about listening to other people's journey that are in the same industry as us.
The thing is, though, it's a very isolated. When you're working behind your range and you're there early morning and prepping, it's very isolated. It's nice to know there's other islands of misery out there you can relate to.
Have you ever? Another good friend of the show, Beniko Ziniu, he calls that BRS, and that's behind the range syndrome.
Is that behind the range syndrome? Bless him.
Yeah. So and I don't know. I had the happiest moments of my life behind that firing range, David.
I'm not going to.
I was going to say, no one's got any words.
You were pleasured behind a range. I don't want to know.
Oh, God. Why are you not taking the conversation dirty? Why can't it be clean like me?
Miri used to come and visit at work.
Yeah, I'm saying nothing and get beats. So, guys, it's been emotional. We've hit all our topics. We've probably gone a little over on some, but it's been great talking. And it feels like this month thing, looking back on things is great. Kelly's going to start hounding us shortly for the next date. But yeah, I think I wish everybody a happy beginning of the month because that's next week. And we'll talk soon.
Thank
you very much,
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Ciao, ciao.
And thank you so much for listening to episode 214 of the Ceres podcast with my fellow pod squadders, Kelly, David, Mark, and me, of course. It's an absolute pleasure to share the microphone with this team. They are absolutely brilliant, and I think we're really finding our feet, and these are getting better. Don't forget, the most reliable way to get all the updates about Ceres, that's new podcast episodes, exclusive offers, great articles, access to competitions which you won't get anywhere else. Make sure you're in our WhatsApp announcement group or the Ceres mailing list or both. You'll find both links in the episode show notes. As always, we're here to help your business thrive with quality products, great articles, real support and conversations that matter. Until next time, take care and thank you again for tuning in.